Welcome to Prem and Proper for another go-round here on the SDH Network. What we are going to do is we're going to go backward, then we're going to go forward, let you know everything that is going on in the Premier League. We've got some sound to get you ready for the weekend that will be and get you through all the juice boxes coming up when it comes to a very, very busy Saturday. And then you've got some action that's going to be trickling into the midweek for makeup games and such. And we'll go over all of that as we get you prepped for everything here in the Premier League. Let's go backward, as always, before we go forward and go over the results from last week. We'll go over the standings. We've got your sound. We also have your Drew Dickinson Diatribe, otherwise known as the 3D, coming up at the end of the show. On your Saturday, Manchester City took a while, but they finally stopped playing with their food. 2-0 win over Nottingham Forest at a minus 625. Big point for Luton, even though a lot of folks thought that they probably were aggrieved in trying to chase after full points. 1-1 draw with Wolves at a plus 231. Crystal Palace and Fulham in the third of 5 matches on your Saturday. Goalless draw at a plus 235. Everton, a big win over Brentford at the G-Tech at a plus 321. First win of the season for Everton, and boy, did they need it. Manchester United on the road at Turf Moor. The late game on Saturday afternoon, minus 118, knocking off Burnley by the final of 1-0. Sunday had 4 matches at 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Liverpool, no problem with West Ham, 3-1 at a minus 270. Villa, the shock result, beats Chelsea on the road at Stamford Bridge, 1-0 at a plus 315. Brighton put the pedal down, beat Bournemouth at the Amex. That one was competitive for a while. Then Brighton, once again, they got the win at a minus 196 for full points. Arsenal and Spurs, one of the more fun matches of the weekend. You're looking for something to do with juice boxes. You might want to take totals when it comes to Spurs. And a 2-2 draw with Arsenal and Spurs at a plus 337. Then probably the shock match of the shock result of the weekend that was in the Premier League. 8-0, 8 different goal scorers for Newcastle, knocking off Sheffield United at Bramall Lane, and folks were exiting roughly with 30 minutes to go. It was that much of a shock. Paul Heckingbottom still employed as Sheffield United manager, although there are discussions that Chris Wilder might be brought back into the fold if things continue to go south for Sheffield United. So that sets up our standings after Matchweek 6. No surprise, Manchester City, they've only given up 3 goals in the first 6 matches. They run the table. They're at 18 points. Liverpool, the 1 draw, that's their only blemish. They're at 16 points. Brighton is third with the 1 loss. They're at 15 points after 6 matches. Spurs at 14 points with the 2 draws. Same with Arsenal, but Spurs are ahead on goal difference at 14 points. That gets us to 6th, then Aston Villa, who are at 12. West Ham is at 10 points. After losing 2, they've now won 3 in a row. 9 points, Newcastle and Manchester United at 8-9. Newcastle ahead on goal difference. Crystal Palace at 8 points and Fulham at 8 points. Crystal Palace ahead on goal difference. Nottingham Forest chasing after the 3rd win of the season. That didn't happen until November last year. They've already got 2 this year. They are in 12th place at 7 points. Brentford is at 6 points after 6 matches. Chelsea is 14th, 5 points in 6 matches played, and they have lost 2 of their last 3. Everton, with that win, they now get to 4th place. They are in 15th. Wolves are in 16th at 4 points. They are behind in goal difference. Bournemouth right now 3 points, and then your relegation zone, Luton and Burnley with a match in hand. Luton ahead on goal difference. Sheffield United, obviously, with a goal difference of minus 12, has lost 5 of their first 6 matches. Now let's get into the sound to get you ready for the weekend. First off, getting into the matchups themselves, Burnley and Newcastle. And so what is on the mind of head coach Vincent Kompany as Burnley chases after a win to get out of the relegation zone, courtesy of Burnley, their own self?
That's what you're in the game for. I mean, for every tough opponent, for every team you play of that caliber, there's also a small opportunity of doing something special, something that you'll be remembered for. And you go into the game looking at the opportunities and not necessarily the consequences of the fact that they're a very, very strong team.
They've got PSG in the Champions League a few days later. You've got Luton a few days later. Does that complicate the situation a little bit when it comes to team selection? Have you got to think about both games?
You talk about resting players for the Newcastle game. I don't think that's for us. Every game is tough for us in the Premier League. So, yes, we trust that if a player is injured, we've got players that can step in and do the job. But in terms of playing the game, every game we try and play the best team for the game. So tactically, there might always be something you wanna see in a game that's different. Newcastle is a very different game than Luton. Luton's a very different game than Chelsea. But for those games, we'll always try and put the team that we think can get a result.
News on a percentage of a sale of Liverpool from Fenway Sports Group. Kaveh Solokal has a part of the discussion on Sky Sports News about who bought them, how much, and what it means to the bottom line.
Well, look, Liverpool owners for quite a while have been looking for some outside investment, and they announced this afternoon that they had sold a stake in the club. Now, they haven't said how much for exactly and how big or small the stake is, but we understand they're selling a small stake for up to $200 million. So that is about £160 million. Now, this stake is being bought by a US private equity firm called Dynasty Equity, and they are paying between $100 million and $200 million. So between £80 million and £160 million. Now, who are they? They're a company that was set up last year by two men. The first one is a man called Jonathan Nelson, who's a US asset manager. The other one is a gentleman called Don Cornwell, who is a US investment banker. And this is their first investment, but they're planning on making lots of other investment, buying minority stakes in sports clubs around the world. Now, Liverpool did also have talks with other investment groups, but I think they felt that this was the only one that was a right fit. Now, a lot of people are asking the question, were Liverpool up for sale? Is this the end of a process which started with Fenway Sports Group trying to sell the club and then changing their mind and thinking, no, we'll just sell a small stake? My understanding of the situation is that Liverpool were not for sale. Yes, two investment banks were retained last November to look at investment options, but Liverpool were only ever really looking for an investment, and that is what they've got today.
So, 100+ million quid coming into the coffers. Is Jurgen Klopp going like this, going, this is my transfer kitty?
You sound like a Liverpool fan. I know you're not. I know you're not. No, I think we should make it clear that this money is not going to go towards future transfers. What it is going to go towards is paying down debt, because Liverpool, like every other club in the world, were affected by the pandemic. So it will go towards paying off some of the debts that were built up during and after the pandemic. And it'll also go towards paying and financing capital expenditure. I'm thinking, for instance, redevelopment of Anfield, the building of a new training ground, buying back the former training ground, Melwood. Also, I think it would go towards paying for some of the transfers that were made during the last window. But the simple answer to your question is no, the money's not going to go towards a transfer war chest for Jurgen Klopp going forward. I don't think that would be a clever way to spend the money.
Now, when we chatted about this before we came on air, you said this could have implications for Manchester United. Explain.
Well, I think Manchester United supporters will be looking at this, and obviously they will know their club has effectively been for sale for almost a year now, and there's been very little progress. And they'll be looking at Liverpool and thinking that this process, as far as Liverpool were concerned, started at the same time, and Liverpool have got something. Is this something that the Glazers would contemplate at Manchester United? Could we see them staying and only selling a minority stake in Manchester United? I still think that is a possibility. You know, it's still possible that they'll sell the club to Sheikh Jassim. It's still possible that they'll sell the club to Sir Jim Ratcliffe. It's still possible that they'll sell a minority stake. It's still possible that they won't sell the club at all. It's down to the Glazers to decide that. And there's not just one Glazer. The club is owned by 6 different members of the family. But I think Manchester United supporters will be looking at this and thinking, got to choose my words carefully. I think most Manchester United supporters would not be happy for this kind of deal to happen at Manchester United, because whenever there's been a survey, the vast majority of Manchester United supporters want the Glazers to leave. They don't want the Glazers to stay and just sell a minority stake. But it is something that they have been contemplating.
We mentioned Everton getting that big win. Now they get to turn around and face Luton Town at home. What does this mean to Sean Dyche when it comes to momentum, courtesy of Everton, their own self?
Well, there's an expectation at Everton Football Club at every game. That's certainly been very, very clear to me since I've been here. Every game is a winnable game. Every game we should expect to win. Every game we go in it to win it. And that is the expectation of being at Everton Football Club. I've learned that very quickly.
What have you made of Luton? They can't be high on confidence given what happened to them in the League Cup as well this week.
Yeah, I don't think they'll be too worried about that in the sense of they made a lot of changes. They're working very hard in games. They're playing structured. They're trying to get the ball forwards. They're trying to ask questions of the opposition. It's always a tough ask coming up, but they're working hard in games. So we've certainly got to deliver a performance. We certainly take no one lightly, that's for sure, and the players know that. Well, there's an expectation.
And once again, we mentioned Sheffield United and Paul Heckingbottom. They get West Ham this weekend. So after Newcastle put 8 on Sheffield United, how do they try to shake it off, go on the road, and take on the Hammers, courtesy of Sheffield United, their own selves?
Abdullah was on the phone to me straight after the game, so yeah, we speak regular. That's not an issue. Yeah, the support's there. Spoke with Stephen as well, but yeah, I think that's not my concern. That's not my job. My job, as you said, this building and the unity within this building. So yeah, we need to understand that we need to be better. I think we are all in agreement on that. Yeah, and as I say, we need to be one of those teams that suffered these defeats before and used it to achieve our goal, which is to stay in this league. Abdullah was on.
The Football Show had a bit of an interesting discussion, and they are part of Monday Night Football. With everything that has been invested, $800 million so far, looking to get loans to invest another $250 million in players and player transactions. Question was asked after the Gummy Bear Cup activity in the midweek, should Chelsea run their offense through Cole Palmer? Here's the conversation, courtesy of our friends at the Football Show and Sky Sports News.
Is Cole Palmer one of the few shining lights for Chelsea so far this season? Here's how he shaped up last night. Assists, obviously, for that goal. First, goal involvements. First, again, total shots. He had a couple of shots, which is second in the Chelsea ranks. Chances created, 2 as well, which is second. And passes into the box, 3, which is second. So already you can see the impact he's starting to have. So the question really to Sam and Henry is, should Chelsea be building their whole attack around this man?
I think he should definitely be one of the players that you build attack around. I don't think that there should be like one singular player at the age that he is to, build attack around. I think it should be quite fluid, with Mudryk, Noni Madueke, Sterling as well. I think Sterling probably is one of those players that you could say, because of his experience and what he's done in the Premier League and the amount of goals he scored, those are the players that you could almost put pressure on. But I think it's good that Pochettino hasn't, flung him straight into the side and said, we want you to produce when the side isn't doing well. He had a few cameos where he was creating chances, and then this game he was definitely man of the match in my opinion. So yeah, I think building around him when other players are going to come back from injury, it depends, but I think he should definitely constantly be in the fold for the team.
Yeah, you said that about injuries. You felt like Nkunku was going to be the guy they were going to build it around, £60 million player, tons of goal involvements for Leipzig. He's out. Chelsea obviously having a really tough time at the moment. There is an opportunity for Cole Palmer to go there and say, look, I should be the man you build it around. You wouldn't have said that previously with his lack of experience. But at this point in time, I think Chelsea have to take a chance on this kind of player. And he showed last night, he stepped up to the occasion. He is a super talented individual. And I hope that now Pochettino has seen what he can do in a big game against a tough side, and maybe he will get his moment to shine at Stamford Bridge.
I feel like every time we talk about Chelsea, we have to talk about injuries, new injuries. Just as one comes back, another gets injured. Ben Chilwell coming off with a hamstring injury. How much of a blow is that?
Yeah, it's going to be tough because he's had so many injuries in his past, especially at Chelsea, like a lot of months out. And when he starts getting into a run of games, it seems like that's when the moment, whether it's a bad challenge or him overextending, something bad happens. But I think at this point where Chelsea are, they've got Marc Cucurella, they've got Maatsen as well, who can play left back. They've got Colwill, who can do that position as well, and Colwill's actually been playing left back recently. So I think in all the times he has been injured, this is probably the most prepared Chelsea are for his absence.
Interesting discussion to put on a young man, but we'll see what happens and see how Mauricio Pochettino continues to adjust with the injury to Nico Jackson and such. Then our last piece of sound, once again, from our friends at Sky Sports News. You've got 2 number ones in net for Arsenal, David Raya, Aaron Ramsdale. Question is, can you have a 1 and you have a 1A? Can you have 2 number ones? Here's their thoughts, once again, courtesy of the Football Show and SSN.
Let's talk about Arsenal. I've got a headline from the Telegraph, hopefully bring you in short a while. But Ramsdale seizes opportunity to post timely reminder for Arteta. It's becoming the main story around Arsenal, isn't it? Even after a League Cup win at Brentford, Martin.
Yeah, I mean, he made some cracking saves, I think, kept them in it, really. And if he needed to make a response to Arteta to show that actually he should have that number 1 spot, then he couldn't have done it any better. Lots of Arsenal fans that I know are sort of bemused by what's happened with this particular situation with Raya and Ramsdale, because Ramsdale had such a great season last season, and you know, he may not be quite as good on the ball as Raya, but can he? I think there's a set expectation that long term they can't both be at the club together, and I'm sure this will just add to that.
Absolutely. They play Bournemouth away in the Premier League at the weekend, Mikel. How do you see it? Do you feel that if Ramsdale doesn't play in that off the back of a clean sheet, perhaps Mikel Arteta needs to just be up front and say that Raya is his clear and present number 1?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I was about to say that. This is going to be the tell, really, isn't it? Because now he's used Ramsdale in that League Cup game, and there's at least kind of the semblance of some rotation. Well, once we get back, I suppose, what Arteta himself might describe privately as the real business of the Premier League, we'll see who he really favours here. Now, I suppose in all this, there is maybe some sort of kind of rationale that hasn't been too discussed yet, that with modern goalkeepers and how foot-based it is and how they're often kind of an 11th outfield player in that regard, it does maybe make more tactical logic to rotate in that sense. But it still doesn't really feel like that's the case here. It still feels like ultimately that Arteta is doing with Ramsdale what he did with Leno and Ramsdale 2 years ago. But I suppose the truth in that we might begin to see at the weekend.
So that's where we stand right now, looking at the matchups once again. 8 matches on your Saturday, 1 on Sunday, 1 on Monday. The Luton-Burnley match is made up on Tuesday. So here's our juice boxes leading into a very busy weekend for both Luton Town and Burnley. Early match on Saturday, Villa, an underdog at home as Brighton comes to town at a plus 150. Villa's at a plus 164. At the Vitality, your 10 o'clocks, and those are the other 6 of the other 7 matchups. Very, very busy 10 o'clock window. Bournemouth at the Vitality is a plus 459, hosting Arsenal at a minus 172. Everton favored at a minus 161, hosting Luton Town at a plus 517, draws a plus 300. Manchester United a minus 164. Draw against Crystal Palace is a plus 321. Crystal Palace is a plus 474. Burnley at Newcastle, we heard from Vincent Kompany. They go to town at a plus 827. Draws a plus 468 in the composite, courtesy of our friends at Odds Portal. Newcastle almost a minus 300. Sheffield United, we heard from Paul Heckingbottom. They are a plus 646. Heading to West Ham, draws a plus 396. The Hammers are a minus 227. Manchester City at the Molineux taking on Wolves. Set as many players as you can in your fantasy lineup, and Captain Erling Haaland as Manchester City is a minus 312. Wolves are a plus 874, and your draw is a plus 476. 12:30, the match of the day in some circles, Spurs and Liverpool at Tottenham Stadium. It is Spurs at a plus 197, Liverpool a plus 123, and your draw is a plus 309. Sunday, one match, 9 o'clock, Brentford at City Ground taking on Nottingham Forest, slight favorite at a plus 168. Draws a plus 229. Nottingham Forest is a plus 183. Monday Night Football, Chelsea at Craven Cottage taking on Fulham. Chelsea's a plus 104. Fulham is a plus 286. Your draw is a plus 254. Your makeup game on Tuesday, Luton Town at Kenilworth Road taking on Burnley, and they have to turn around and play Spurs at Kenilworth Road on Saturday. So it is a very, very busy week for Luton Town. But 2 of those matchups are at home. Luton Town in the makeup game hosting Burnley at a plus 197. Burnley, the Clarets are a plus 152, and your draw is a plus 231. So that sets up everything heading into the weekend. Now it is time for the 3D. And here's Drew with his thoughts on the weekend.
Special shout out to John Nelson and Soccer Don here for having me once again. I missed last week on vacation. Happy to be back. Plenty to talk about for sure. So we're just going to dive right into it and begin with the Erik ten Hag, Manchester United, Jadon Sancho situation. It, as you can see in the background and on my shirt, big United fan. I think I have more passion for the club and the badge than Jadon Sancho, but I digress. We'll get right into it though. Sancho dropped from the squad for the Arsenal game from Ten Hag due to what some say, or even Ten Hag says, not training hard or lack of effort during training. Sancho didn't like that. He went to Instagram to speak out, saying that he is being scapegoated, whatever that means. The kid makes £350,000 a week. If you're not training properly and you're setting a bad example, you need to be called out. The standards by Erik ten Hag are being set. And if you can't live up to it, maybe something's got to change. Who knows? But as things continue, Ten Hag's, he has made it clear. You apologize to me for your actions and boom, you're right back in the squad, training the way that you should and that we hope that you will. But unfortunately, Sancho just refuses to apologize. I guess it's that the electricity of the youthfulness inside of him still. I mean, look, like I said, he's on $350K a week, and it looks like money might be an afterthought for him because playing FIFA in all hours of the night seems to be more important than showing up to training, playing for the badge, and playing for the fans that, pay your salary. And even another little tidbit, he's been encouraged by Luke Shaw, Marcus Rashford, Harry Maguire, you name it. Most of his teammates have encouraged him to apologize. The right wing spot is open. Antony is injured, dealing with some off-field issues. You would have thought Sancho would have come right in and taken that spot as his own. But it looks like Facundo Pellistri and Alejandro Garnacho want it a little bit more. And real quick, United have ended up winning their last two games, regardless of the off-the-field issues. Albeit one was against Burnley Crystal Palace in the Carabao Cup, and on the road at Burnley, who are, in the relegation zone. But a win is a win is a win. And, right now, Jadon Sancho apologizing to Ten Hag and getting his Manchester United career back on track, unfortunately, seems like a pipe dream. And Sancho, if you're out there listening and you just so happen to turn on Soccer Down Here, grow up, man up, show up to training, and fight for the badge like you promised to a few weeks ago. But that's neither here nor there. United has another matchup this weekend for the second time this week. Crystal Palace comes to Old Trafford. Like I just stated, United beat them earlier this week in the Carabao Cup 3-0 with some kids on the field, like, Pellistri, Garnacho got the start. Gore got his first minutes as a United player, and Amrabat just played fantastic. Lined up as the left back, cut inside to play as the center back, even pinched in to play as the number 8 and the number 6 at times. So, Mason Mount came in, got his assist. Things start progressing in the health realm for United. You can really see the season start to progress. But we're going to move on from that. Like I said, United Crystal Palace this weekend at Old Trafford. Let's move on. Let's talk about some other games coming up this weekend. One in particular that I'm really excited about, and that's, believe it or not, third place Brighton traveling to Villa Park to take on sixth place Aston Villa. This contest has a unique coaching battle that I'm so excited about. Unai Emery, famous for going up a goal and then, bringing on the defensive players, parking the bus, trying to force you to break down that defense. And of course, the hands down favorite for coach of the year so far, Roberto De Zerbi. I mean, it really, nothing else has to be said. The guy is proven to be a genius with a squad that basically he sold all of his good players over the summer and before the season started, and McAllister and the kid who went to the Ecuadorian who went to Chelsea, is just slipping my mind right now, mainly being because he's Caicedo. He's not playing up to his potential. And that whole Chelsea fiasco is for another day. I mean, their manager is trying to say that it's an easy job when none of the players that Bowley is buying are melting together. You can't just go out and buy superstar players and think that they're just going to click together without a system. But again, that is a problem for Chelsea and a problem for Mauricio Pochettino to try and address. But good luck with Todd Bowley at the helm. And battle at the bottom, easy for me to say. Battle at the bottom, another very fun contest. Sees Luton Town, the very bottom of the table. Luton Town head to 15th place Goodison Park to take on Everton. Luton Town looking for their first Premier League win ever. And I think it's safe to say that Sean Dyche will need maybe a couple of extra packs of smokes for this one, because I got Luton Town going to Everton and getting their first win in the Premier League ever. And of course, to round out Saturday, the match of the day on Saturday for me, in my eyes, is going to be Liverpool heading to North London to take on Tottenham. Liverpool sit second place. Tottenham are in fourth place. You got Tottenham, new manager. You got Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp, who has seemingly brought Liverpool from the bottom back up into the fire, because they had a lot of injuries at the beginning of last season, very similar to what United have right now. And Liverpool weren't able to break into that top four. They're in the Europa League. And I think that changes this season. I think Liverpool goes right into a very high-flying Tottenham with Heung-min Son, James Maddison playing very well, but I still think it's not going to be enough for Spurs, as Liverpool will take this one on Saturday. And, we talked, the first episode that I was on, we discussed our bottom three for the end of the season, and I'm not switching. We were supposed to pencil them in. Mine are still in pencil, and I haven't crossed them out at all. I still have Burnley, Luton Town, and Everton going down into the championship at the end of the season. It could change, like we said. Those are all written in pencil, and it could change, but it's very hard for me to see anybody right now, especially at this moment in the season. You got your Bournemouth, Southampton. I still have my eyes on Burnley, Luton Town, and Everton. I said before, I just don't think there's enough for Sean Dyche, Burnley, and Luton Town to keep their teams up. And Vincent Kompany, doing a great job. I just don't think there's enough money in it yet. JJ Watt, he's coming in as one of the new partnerships in the owner group for Burnley. So look to see Burnley make some noise. I don't want to say this season, but in the next couple of years, they're going to be rising up the ranks due to just popularity. And you heard that from me first. Well, that's going to do it for this Thursday's edition of Prem and Proper. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope to see everybody right here, same time, same place next week. Wherever you may be watching, wherever you may be listening, thank you so much. It means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to John and the rest of Soccer Down here. That's it for me. I am Drew Dickinson. Cheers, everyone. We'll see you next week.
So that's your rundown of everything going on in the Premier League. That's another round of Prem and Proper here at SDH. Enjoy the matchups. A lot of them on Saturday, a lot in the 10 o'clock window, just in time for the other football to take over for noon kicks. For everybody here at SDH, for Drew, I'm just John. Play it safe, everybody. Enjoy your games in the Premier League. We'll catch up with you next week.